This is CBSSports.com's Pro Football 360. I'm Kevin Cork, everybody. Great to have you with us. We're with you Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Time now to welcome in our NFL experts, Pete Prisco and Will Brinson, as we look at our power rankings. Before we get to who's moving up and who's moving down, if I had to say who is the best team in the National Football League, just one, Pete Prisco, who would that team be?
Undefeated team. Until you take them down, they have to stay in the number one spot. You could make a case for the Texans. You could make a case for some other teams who are getting hot. But I think right now, if you had to pin me down, I'd say the Atlanta Falcons.
How about you, Will Brinson? There are a lot of great teams out there. Some of them do have losses. The Falcons are unbeaten. Are you going with them as the best team in the league?
Yeah, look, if you're undefeated, you got to give it to the Falcons. But I think what's interesting is that when you start slotting out these teams, and I haven't seen Pete's official rankings yet, but when you see, I think maybe the Texans are probably the only AFC team that I would put above about 5 NFC teams. I'm talking about the Packers, the 49ers, the Giants, the Falcons, and somebody else that I'm forgetting.
Bears,
but anyway,
maybe?
Yes, exactly. But the Bears, yes. It depends on what the Bears do on Monday night, of course. But I think when you look at the NFC this year, and I read about this in Sorting the Sunday Pile on Sunday night, is vastly superior to the AFC from top to bottom.
Like big brother versus little brother. All right, guys, let's talk about our power rankings. First, let's talk about the teams that are on the rise. Pete Prisco, the New Orleans Saints topping the list, along with the Seahawks, Titans, Vikings, and Colts. Your take?
Well, when you look at the Saints, you go on the road and you get a victory, and all of a sudden you start feeling pretty good about yourself, even though you still can't stop anybody on defense, and you stink on defense, and bounty gates hanging over their heads. Look, one game is not going to make their season, it's not going to turn it around. They have too many tough games. They have problems. But for now, we'll move up in the power ranking.
Will, we've got Saints, Hawks, Titans, Vikings, and Colts on the way up. Your thoughts?
Dude, look, the Colts and the Dolphins. We could be staring at a situation. The Colts aren't that far out of the AFC wild card. As I mentioned, it's not a very tough conference this year. Right now, it's the Chargers and the Dolphins in the playoffs. If the season ended today, what if we ended up with Ryan Tannehill and Andrew Luck captaining a pair of wild card playoff teams in the AFC? That'd be something. And the Colts, it squeaked one out against the Browns, but I've been impressed by what they're doing. I think they could make a run at the postseason.
That is a very good point. Don't fall asleep on that Dolphin defense. Miami a little bit better than I think a lot of people thought. Meanwhile, on the moving down list this week, we have the Ravens, Buccaneers, Bills, and the Panthers. As we take a look at that list, Pete, which teams stand out to you?
Well, it's clearly the Ravens. For the life of me, I can't figure out how that team is so bad on defense. And Ozzie Newsome is one of the best general managers in the National Football League. Eric DeCosta, who works alongside him, well respected. I just think that they're getting some bad breaks on defense, and they missed on some guys. And some guys, quite frankly, have been lazy and didn't put the work in. You see bodies of guys that were once big-time players. Now they don't look like they're in shape. So you look at that team, and I think there's a big surprise in a lot of people's minds that the fact that the Baltimore Ravens can't stop anybody.
Will, we've got the Ravens, Bucks, Bills, and Panthers. A lot of people are talking about the Buccaneers. Your thought on them as one of the teams that's moving down?
They're the Bucks. Look, at least they finally figured out they need to pass the ball first instead of just running it. I think there's a lot of confusion on what Greg Schiano is really doing in there. It's a tough rebuilding job. They weren't going to challenge for that division title right away. We've seen some nice things. Vincent Jackson's flashed well. The other team on that list that you talk about disappointing defense. How about the Bills? They can't stop anybody. They're getting they have 195 rushing yards to Chris Johnson. I mean, this is a team that coughed up a lot of money in the offseason to improve their defense, and it's one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I think that if they continue to struggle the way they did, and look, you can't lose that game to Matt Hasselbeck and the Titans. You could be talking about some hot seats in Buffalo as well.
Hey, let me send it back over to Pete. You heard Will just mention the Titans. I think the Titans and the Vikings is two of those teams that are on the rise, Pete, certainly deserve some mention. In particular, Tennessee seems to be improving every week.
Well, now I have a dilemma. They're all of a sudden going to think they're a playoff contender now, which in the bad AFC they might be. So now they're going to step back and say, you know what, maybe they'll play Matt Hasselbeck. And I don't agree with that at all, by the way. If you're going to play Jake Locker to start the season, he got hurt. When he comes back, you play him, and you do things for the future, not just for now. Because what happens if it's the same as last year, where you have a good run, you get a winning record, you don't make the postseason? Then all you're doing is setting it back another year. So they are in the contention, but play Jake Locker when he comes back.
What about the Vikings? I love Christian Ponder. He continues to impress. I guess my expectations were fairly low coming in, and every now and again they just keep chalking up these victories. What do you think about them, Pete?
Well, Ponder played awful yesterday. It was a bad game for him, and they still found a way. And the reason they found a way is their front is relentless. Everybody knows Allen, and they know Jared Allen. But Brian Robinson on the other side is getting after people. He had 3 sacks on Sunday. He's a good football player, plays with a relentless style, and they attack the quarterback. So it's pass rushers and quarterback, and even though their quarterback didn't play very well against the Cardinals, the pass rush did.
Will, you get the final word. Those Vikings, I don't care what anybody says, those guys up there just continue to impress, not because necessarily they're going to be the best team in the conference, but because I guess my expectations were fairly low, and they keep notching those victories, even if, as Pete points out accurately, sometimes the defense has to bail you out.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the only person who was on the Vikings bandwagon before the season was CBSSports.com's Mike Freeman. He actually wrote that they'd be a sleeper, and props to Mike for nailing that one. The Vikings, Christian Ponder had like 58 passing yards yesterday, but the difference is the only time you pay a running back is when that running back is Adrian Peterson, because he can bail you out. Adrian Peterson had a great day.
Exactly.
The Vikings defense looked great, and look, that was my lock of the week, because anytime you can put a defense like the Vikings with enough pass rushers up against an offensive line like the Cardinals, you're going to do pretty well.
AP was AD yesterday, as in all day. Great stuff. Will Brinson and Pete Prisco with us here on Pro Football 360. Guys, before we wrap up the segment, I'd like to present to you our image of the day. Take a look at, well, listen, the Jets are already a circus, right? I mean, come on. We've got Tebow, we've got Sanchez. Our image of the day is, well, we've got Mark Sanchez. He's going to kick the ball. Good kick right out of the end zone. Something you'd expect to see in soccer. Pete Prisco, your thoughts on our image of the day?
It's a brilliant play. I mean, everybody's criticizing him and laughing at him for it. What's he supposed to do? Fall on and get hit and be a safety anyways. He made the smart play. If there was more time and there weren't people around him, he could have picked it up and thrown it out of bounds. But, look, it was a safety. He made the smart move. Give him credit for that. And by the way, he threw for 328 yards yesterday, and everybody's still talking about playing Tebow. Are you kidding me?
No,
it was the smart move. You got to kick it out of the end zone, but that doesn't mean it's any less funny. I mean, I can't get Ace Ventura quotes out of my head. Soccer style kicker. What a hell of a model American.
I am trying for the life of me to remember that great NFL films, Swing and a Miss by some kicker. Maybe it was a Dolphin kicker from way back in the day. I'll have the guys help me out once we're off the air. I was just worried that Sanchez was going to swing and miss, and that ball was just going to be spinning in the end zone and then be recovered. Mark Sanchez, though, did do the right thing and kick that thing out. And they had a chance to win, guys. And some would argue they certainly could have and should have won. But anyway, Pete Prisco, Will Brinson helping us out once again here on Pro Football 360. Always a pleasure to have you with us, guys. And a reminder, everybody, we are with you Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Kevin Cork. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at @IOnNFL. This has been the latest edition of Pro Football 360. We'll see you again next time, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m.
This is CBS Sports, home of Super Bowl 47.